Hey guys, this is page 2 of Drivability. As I told you, we're gonna put these out in 10 to 15-minute videos, and I think this might be more interesting, and you can get more out of it doing it this way. All right, you guys that just picked up on this video first, go back to page 1. Watch page 1. It's 16 minutes, and then come back to page 2, and then we'll pick up where that was off. All right. So Drivability, page 2. This is a highway machine, and I'm going to tell you how to set it up with HT tires, highway tread tires. And I'm going to show you how to get steerability straight ahead or turning tight in town. Our suspension has a variable caster feature. Huh? Variable caster, that's right. In alignment caster, think about caster a minute. You've got a motorcycle, you've got a chopper motorcycle, and it has the front wheel way out there, right? Great. You can get on the highway and let go of the wheel and it just goes straight. But then you get into, I got to turn around. You may have to go into a parking lot to turn around because the further the tire goes out, the longer radius it's going to need to turn around, right? But it's great on the highway. All right. Think of yourself in the grocery store and you're pushing a shopping cart. And that shopping cart goes from aisle to aisle, turns real quick, real easy. Why? Because that front wheel is cambered back. Here's the cart, wheels back here. And it goes wherever you push it. Real easy. That's negative camber. Negative caster. Okay? Negative caster, you can turn around and shop the aisles in the grocery store. But if you go outside and let go of it, you don't know where it's going to go because it's trying to follow where you lead and you're not leading it. So it goes all over the place. Right? So if we have positive caster, if the wheel is rolled out front like a chopper bike, it's going to have better steering, and for straight ahead, you're not going to stay with it. If we have a wheel like a shopping cart that has negative caster, like this, then we'll be able to turn tight in town, which is a good thing because we have 26 feet or 23 feet, right? So understand that caster is a real big component, okay? I've had some people call me up and say, Jim, this thing is all over the road. Geez, Rick. First thing I ask them, let's see where you're at on ride height. Huh? Yes. Here's what you do. And some of this is repeating, I know, but it's all in a flow. And we're at 3 minutes, so we got a little while to go here. Go outside, stand next to the front wheel, right? And with your body side molding, measure or mark on your waist where the top of the body side molding is. Mark it on your waist, right? Now, walk to the back. Stand in between the two rear wheels and see where it is to your waist. In relationship to the front, it should be 1.5 to 2 inches lower in the back than it is in the front. Why is that? Well, think about this. Here's your frame. And here's the built-in caster. GM put in, and here's the wheel down here. Okay? Now, if you raise the back of the motorhome from here, you raise it up, the caster goes negative. All right? Now, if you lower the back, the caster, the wheel's out here. The caster goes positive. So, when you're driving, proper ride height, we'll talk about that. Proper ride height is you have the body side molding 1.5 to 2 inches lower in the back than you do in the front. Okay? Now, the front's not adjustable. That's a good thing because the drive shafts need to come directly out of the differential and go directly into the hub and knuckle. You know, if you look at a military vehicle, Humvee, how the drive shafts go at an angle, well, buddy, they're replacing those CV joints a lot. Okay. The idea of our CV joints is not to get this heavy ground clearance. The idea of our CV joints is to let the wheel move up and down as the differential is sitting still. It's not to go way down. So this drive shaft, your drive shafts need to come right out of the differential and go right into the wheel. And that's adjusted by the torsion bar. Now, if you look up underneath your coach and it's like this, the CV joints are like this or ones like that, you need to get that level. Whatever you do, the drive shafts need to be level out of the differential. That's what sets the ride height in the front. And you adjust the torsion bars by those bolts. Now, never turn one of those torsion bar bolts with pressure on it. You have to use a C-clamp to clamp that thing down and then move that bolt and spray it with some PB Blaster or whatever. And then move the bolt. A ½ inch on the bolt's about a ½ inch of height. Okay? So the first thing, if you're going to get good drivability and good steerability, the drive shafts need to come straight out of the differential. Go underneath and look. Don't worry about the mark and the frame and all that crap. Come right. The drive shafts need to come straight out. Adjust the torsion bars to do that. And then go outside. You set the torsion bars for the drive shaft to come straight out, and then go measure your body side molding on the outside on your waist, and then go to the back and set it 1.5 inches to 2 inches on your air ride system, 1.5 inches to 2 inches lower, okay, from the front. If you have an operating auto system, there's a height control valve with an arm between the height control valve that has a dogleg shaped arm, and there's a rod going down to the suspension. The relationship of this height control valve to where this suspension is your auto ride height adjustment. Now, what I'll do, I'll put a turnbuckle in there. It's got 2 quarter-20 bolts. You put a turnbuckle in there, and now you can adjust that thing way up or way down. The way they originally adjusted it, the dogleg shaped arm has a 7/16 nut about 2 inches up. You take that loose, and it will move that arm just a little bit. Personally, the rubber grommets that were on that bolt on the link is probably rotted out. They're gone. So it's probably a good idea to put in a adjuster rod in there. And that will also make it real easy to set your ride height. So if you do have an operating system, set your ride height 1.5 inches to 2 inches lower than the front. Again, yes, there are measurements, but rather than just doing a measurement and shut up and do it, let's talk about why the measurements are where they are. The front measurement on the frame is because that's when the drive shafts are sticking straight out. The measurement on the back needs to be 1.5 inches to 2 inches lower if your alignment caster, and again, that's the next phase. Because the first phase is you need to understand the suspension. Your air ride system, yes, it's made to level in an RV park that's not level. But to be honest with you, in 2024, by this time, if it's not just an ancient national park that hasn't been graded out or something, most RV spots are pretty level. All right. So the idea in the manual of leveling in a park is kind of silly. The idea of that air ride system is to give you variable caster in town high. You jack the back of it up high in town, then you got negative caster and you can turn easier. Shh. But don't go over 45 miles an hour. I don't care how cool it looks with the ass up in the air. When you get on highway, it's kind of like Star Wars. Warp Factor 2 there, Scotty, or Star Trek. Warp Factor 2, Scotty. Put the back end down 1.5 inches to 2 inches. Ride height, auto, go. That's on the highway. But in town, you can jack it up and do this. right? You say, well, you're tired of hearing all this. All right, well, this has to do with steerability. You need to know how to use your air ride system. All right. So let's lock it down at 1.5 to 2 inches lower in the front than the rear. We're going to be on the highway. Now, I don't drive it in town that way. In town, I have it level or high in the back. One, I think it looks good. Two, I don't worry about speed bumps or swells dragging off my bumper, my holding tank, or anything like that. Right. But let's talk about steerability on the highway, which means your air ride system needs to be 1.5 to 2 inches lower. The body needs to be lower in the back than it is in the front. That's the first step. Is your coach in ride height? Now, I've had some people that absolutely said they couldn't handle the coach at all, just they were ready to sell it. I convinced them to set ride height, and it solved all the problems. Okay? All of them. So, guys, listen to me. Understand what your air ride system's for and set your ride height for travel. And now let's see how it drives. Okay? All right. That's the first part. That's the first part of steerability, is getting it set up right. Now, the next part. You ever driven a Volkswagen bus? You know, when you're sitting up front, you know, really scary if something hits you in the front, you know, your feet are shot. But in a Volkswagen bus, you are sitting over the wheel. Now, in a GMC, you're pretty much over the wheel too. So when you make a correction in your steering, it makes a big correction to the vehicle. Now, in a Volkswagen bus, had this huge wheel. Why? Because it had no power steering, and it had to use the gears to get that sucker to turn. You turned it 8 times to get it to turn. Okay, I know. I went through a bus phase. When you're driving on the road and you had a better steering than a bus. Bus wasn't too hard to drive because it took you so long to turn. You just kind of whatever, okay? They didn't go that fast anyway. I mean, 55 was about as far as it would go. You felt bad for the motor because of the way the gearing was, you know. But you get out on the road and you have a regular, 14-inch wheel, and it's a 4-to-1 ratio or something like that. You will have a natural tendency to oversteer. You know how, like, you're watching some video and the guy goes this way and he oversteers and corrects, it goes too far the other way and he starts to go back like this and that. That's called oversteer. And when you're sitting over the front wheel, you have a natural tendency to oversteer because you have power steering. You have a 4-to-1 or sometimes 3.5-to-1 ratio. You will oversteer if you have both hands on the wheel, the way they tell you to do it. I understand. But if you have both hands on the wheel, you're going to oversteer. You're going to correct too much. You're going to stay with it. Your arms are going to get tired, and you're going to think this is a terrible drive. Okay. And it's the natural tendency to do that. Why? Because the cars have centering devices and they stay there, but you are a car, but you are a 26-foot long, 6-wheeled car. It was built 50 years ago. All right. So you have some allowances. You have some things that you have to make allowance for. Right? Don't drive it with both hands on the wheel. Drive it like this. Prop your elbow somewhere. Now, I'm left-handed. Like I can tell you, steerability, drivability. My dad was a Greyhound bus driver, and he was right-handed. Okay. But the one thing he told me is the relationship of your body and your hands and your eyes are really important. You see some guy doing a gangster lean or something like that, No. The reason your seat has adjustments, the reason the back, not on the original ones, but the reason you have the back moving up and down and all this stuff is to get in a good driving position. Now you see right there, I'm in a good driving position. I have both arms on the armrest. Now, if your armrests are too high or too low, here's a trick. Bend them. They're made to just bend a little bit. The way the captain's chairs are made, if your armrest goes up and it down is too high, bend it down a little bit and it'll stay. Now that means that you can't sit on the armrest or you'll bend them. It's a negative. Okay, don't sit on the armrest. But adjusting the armrest to where you want them to be is really, really important. Okay, now you say, I thought we were going to talk about steerability. You are. Let's get yourself set up first. All right. You need to be comfortable. All right. We're 15 minutes. Hit like and share and all that kind of stuff. And now let's go to page 3.